Testing. Test. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Cool. Ready to go. Let me just put the message on here. Getting some errors here. Got some poor. Okay. OBS disconnected. OBS reconnected. I don't know what's going on, man. I guess we'll just roll with it and we'll see what happens. Hello, this is the Black Ponderer. I'm the host, Neil Trotter. The Black Ponderer is a YouTube channel, obviously, because we're on YouTube. But we do philosophy here. We mostly talk about philosophical texts, and then we comment on the texts, not just philosophical, like, nonfiction stuff. Sometimes we do just any type of text that has philosophical themes in it. And then we will just talk about the themes in it. But, we do these live streams sometimes, and they're more free balling. They're more, we're just chilling and having a good time, relaxing. It's more like, imagine being at a bar or like a nightclub or a lounge, and we're just chilling. It's not like, don't think of it like we're in the classroom and I'm in front of a chalkboard. No, we're just having a conversation, having a good time. So that's what this is. And so today's topic here at the Black Ponderer is aesthetic. Oh no, I don't know why I'm dealing with connection problems. But we'll just roll with it. We'll see what happens. Okay, so yeah, we're dealing with aesthetic, and that's going to be cool. And I'll just read the description I have. Okay, so, 80s, baby. 90s made me. Right? I bet I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s, right? One of those kids, but I can't just say it, right? I can't just proclaim that status. I gotta look the part too. I actually didn't dress up for this, but what did I say? Baggy jeans. Okay, I need some baggy jeans. I need a cassette Walkman. I had one of those growing up, but I need to sport it. You know what I'm saying? I need my calculator watch. I used to have that too. Those things break easily. The one I had. Now now all that other 80s 90s fashion. But wait a minute, maybe I'm a 1960s flower power hippie. Better bust out with a tie-dye shirt and the bell bottoms. The flower corset. Or maybe, let's see, I'm a country girl, I'm a cowgirl, let's see, need the Daisy Dukes, the short jeans, then you'll know. And I need the cowboy hat and the cowboy boots, but you gotta have the Daisy Dukes. If I'm a cowgirl, what else? Emo or goth dude, I'm gonna need some Doc Martens. I'm gonna need or some Chuck Taylors. They got it all. I got dressed in all black. That's how I got to do it. Then you'll know that I'm emo or I'm goth or I'm punk or something. What about if I'm actually a lo-fi creator? I do lo-fi, so I often put the VHS filter over my videos. I make my videos look like they're cassette tapes. I grew up with the cassette. I don't actually do that. I'm just saying, that's the aesthetic, right? If I'm a lo-fi creator, I used a Kodak film for my stills. Got to shoot film quality. Kodak. You see what I'm saying? Hold up, no. Actually, here we're dark academia. Okay, we're dark academia. So I need to put on my tweed jacket. And I gotta carry around with me my big ass tome. So Let me get my tome. Get my big ass book. So I'm a dark academia. My James Baldwin collection. Because only the serious people read James Baldwin. He's that's the serious literature right there. I got to carry it around with me all the time. But I need my tweed jacket. This is what we're talking about here. We're talking about aesthetic. So this stream, we're talking about the philosophy of behind aesthetic. So what's going on here? I was kind of half playing, but it's interesting because I guess I could start off with the way I approach my YouTube channel and how I kind of break all the rules and I don't care so much about aesthetic, and I think that's affecting my numbers, which is fine. I've stated many times before, you'll need to hear it again. I don't really care about the numbers. Because if you care about, and it's, if you care about getting high numbers on YouTube, you got to up your aesthetic game. You got to get your ring lights, but you got not even the ring lights. You got to get to buy the big. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I've been doing a lot today, but you gotta buy the the lights with the umbrella though. That's inverted and shit. You gotta have the light filtering all around you, and you gotta buy the $500 camera. Got to shoot that HD, and I got to have that bokeh effect. Because I've been told YouTube is an aesthetic medium, and that makes sense as video. So people aren't gonna watch videos that look like trash. Right? That's fair. That's fair. But I just never cared about that. It's funny because it does fit my personality. And we're just rolling with this example right now. We can go to other examples later. So I to be honest with you, I do find some enjoyment with lo-fi or just kind of shitty quality video. That's just a me thing, and I guess in a way that's a bit selfish, right? But it's kind of it's my channel. I can do whatever the hell I want, right? But so and that's something we could talk about too. What is the deal with people just kind of gravitating towards certain aesthetics, and what draws people to certain aesthetics, right? And that's interesting to think about, right? Because it's interesting because the idea is, everybody likes pristine, high definition quality video, and everybody really likes, the highest of definition and the crispest audio, and that's why I'm using a microphone. And for the most part, that's true, right? However, there are plenty of YouTube channels out there that are shit quality that actually got a lot of numbers. But for the most part, you do want to have good quality, high quality, and then now get your numbers. But for me, and this is what's interesting, I kind of prefer the crappy quality. I don't know what it is about, and that's what we could talk about that. Like, for example, most people will say like, "Hey, I need a high quality audio. I need quality, really good sounding audio in my videos. If the sound in the video sounds garbage, I'm not listening to it." And personally, and I think that's a bit of an aesthetic too, because it's not the situation where I can't even, they'll say like, "I need the quality of the audio to be good." I can understand what the person is saying, but I just need like the audio quality to be superb, right? I've always not cared about that. I'm like, well, as long as I can hear the person talking, I'm good. Like if I hear a fan blowing in the background, or the air conditioning rutted, or like the dishwasher, or like whatever, wind blowing and shit, like as long as I can hear the person, I'm good. In fact, honestly, I kind of prefer that. Now, it's funny because, and so how do you describe that? Like, what is it about, like, why do I prefer that as opposed to high crisp sounding? Like, if I were to choose, I actually kind of gravitate toward YouTube channels that kind of have lower quality, and I kind of shy away from videos that are like extremely overproduced. And that's just a me thing, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, why is that? And it's fascinating to think about, because so with YouTube, right, you want to make videos with really high quality, and that's how you draw numbers. And I wonder, like, of course, many people do like high quality. They prefer that, right? In terms of video and audio, right? But I wonder, like, how much is that people's actual preference, and how much of that is just kind of like this message getting jammed down our throats, right? And we're just like, well, I need high quality because I need high quality, and let's not. Even we can mention it, like all these corporations, like these camera companies and these audio equipment companies that are like constantly pushing these products onto us, that are kind of like forcing these ideas in our head, like, yeah, you want the highest quality video, you gotta have it, that's why you gotta buy our products, right? And I think I kind of think that has a lot to do with it. Like, is it the case that people really actually prefer high quality and good audio, or is it that message jammed down our throat? Now, I say this because an example of this would be like video games, right? A lot of very high, some of the best selling games and the most financially successful games out today, they don't have the best graphics or the best audio quality, right? I'm talking about like games like Fortnite, or like games like Minecraft, right? Or like a lot of these, and it's a lot of these games that like have retro, what is it? Not the Stardew Valley, right? Very successful game, right? Sells off the charts. Does it have the greatest graphics? No. I mean, it's beautiful. Like, it has that sprite animation that's very pretty, and I'm not saying it's the person that did it is doing trash art, like he's doing amazing, but it's not like extremely high definition like the latest 3D graphics. And you look at stuff, I personally, I know family members who are like, you show them like these really high quality video games on the latest PlayStation, like, and my little cousins will be like, I don't care about that. I just want to play Roblox or something. Right? I just want to play some Roblox, right? So, and and it's kind of funny because on the one hand, because you got you look at you got like these people, and they kind of, what they call them, like PC master race people, who prefer, like, they prefer the PC in their gaming because it offers the highest quality in terms of graphics and like audio. So those people prefer that. But there was this idea, and I remember, like, because I used to be in the game industry. You know, I went to school. I actually got a degree in video game simulation programming, I think it's called. It's basically a computer science degree. I got a bachelor's degree in computer science. They called it game simulation programming because I was trying to get into the game industry, and I got in. I shortly got out. I told this story several times, but I remember there was a time. So I'm kind of familiar with the gaming industry. The best selling games would be the ones with the highest graphics and the best audio. Like, that was like the perception. The highest technically advanced games would be the most successful. But that's not true, right? So, and I think that translates to many things, right? It's just a personal preference. I guess we got to, there needs to be this acknowledgement in terms of aesthetic. Like, this is personal preference, which is fascinating. You know, and so I take it back to like the YouTube channel, and I really do like. I don't have any motivation. You know, I look at my YouTube videos and I'm like, wow, they're pretty grainy. They're pretty grainy. I would have kept because I used to use I still use this old ass camcorder that I bought in 2012. I think, and I still use like one of those barrel. Oh, I can show you because I'm not using it right now. I use this. I mean, they don't. I've actually seen these. These aren't very popular anymore. These barrel style camcorders. Although I do go to like electronic stores, and I do see like really high end versions of this. These are really good for like older people, like people in their like grandfathers and stuff, when they go out and vacationing, and it's like very easy to use, very straightforward. You zoom in. It's good for like hunting trips. I don't hunt, but I hear like it's good. It's good for that kind of stuff, or like vacation, because there is easy to zoom. You just flip the screen flips. It's like really easy to use, right? But they don't really. These aren't very popular anymore. You see now what they call mirrorless cameras nowadays. You see. It's the new thing in camera technology. But I use this, and I sometimes I think to myself, maybe I should just like save up and buy an actual like camera today. Some of my videos can look like they were made in 2000, post 2020. But I just can't do it. And it's not a money thing, although, they are hella expensive. So, I mean, that's part of it, right? But I can save up. But I just don't have that motivation because I'm just not attracted to that super crisp, clean, high def, like super 4K. I don't like it. And when I look at my video, it is quite selfish because I kind of look at my own. Sometimes I look at my own videos, particularly like when I'm editing the videos, cutting them down and shit. And it's just I just like that, like 2012. This camera came out when high definition was first becoming commercially available to like the general public. Like, cameras came out with like HD. HD. This is before 4K. This is like I think I shoot my videos in like 720 HD, which is absurd, right? But that was a new thing. This is when the HD high definition video was like first becoming available for like the general public. You didn't have to buy like one of those like high-end movie filming cameras for that. And so that's what it just brings me back to that time. Is it a nostalgic thing? I don't know. But I used to use the internal, and I still do use for my videos, I use the internal microphone, which is, that's a huge no-no in video making. You're not supposed to use the internal microphone. You're supposed to like hook up an external microphone. But I just don't like that clean sound. I just don't like it. I kind of like that. That's why that's one of the reasons why I like vinyl records too, but not even vinyl. I actually like more than vinyl records. I like cassette tapes, and I'm glad they're coming back, because they're actually coming back, and like, because I like I like hearing the mistakes in the medium. I don't know. It's a weird ass thing. I actually, that's just the way. I guess I'm a lo-fi person. I also found a VCR on the side of the road one day. It was just on the side of the road. People just throw out their old technology. And I live in a city where, like, people throw out shit. Like, there's a lot of crap on the side of the road. Like, I found guitars on the side of the road. I found, like, bowls. I think I one time found an entire, like, and I used it, like, entire, like, set of plates and bowls, which I use, and like cups and coffee cup mugs. I found I found this shit on the side of the road, but it was missing a string, but it's a cheap ass guitar. It is, but it's cool. It sounds decent. But yeah, I found a VCR on the side of the road. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna use this. So, I acquire VHS tapes of movies that I like, and I watch them on the VHS, and it just fills me with joy, because you could, VHS video is like shit, right? Like you hear kind of like when the video kind of moves too fast, you'll hear like that speed up sound or that slow down sound sometimes, or it'll flicker and shit. But I just like it, and I would equate that to aesthetic. So it's kind of like a personal aesthetic thing. And then let's go back to more general. It's a very fascinating topic, because I remember, when was this? Maybe like late 2000s, 2000 knots, right? Like, I kind of remember it like 2008 maybe, when like all of a sudden the 1980s started re-emerging out of nowhere. Like, people just, and then genres like synth pop started popping up out of nowhere. People started using old synths that people used in the 80s, and they were incorporating it into their music. Because back before then, like, the most popular music was, back in the mid 2000 knots and the early 2000 knots, like, mainstream music was pretty shitty, because it was like gangster rap, like 50 Cent and like Lil Jon and shit, and like all that like hyphy. Although some of that hyphy stuff is pretty cool. Yeah, what E40 and Too Short and all that East, that West Coast East Oakland rap, that was cool. That was all right. But then they had like the hyphy movement shit with Lil Jon and like just people yelling shit, the whole, like, so rap was 50 Cent and all that crap. So rap was like pretty shitty back then, and then you had a lot of emo stuff that was kind of cringe. Some of that was pretty cool. Some of that, like that Evanescence stuff. Maybe like Avril Lavigne came out with one or two songs that were okay, But actually, she came out with some bangers, but most of that stuff wasn't my taste. But what else? And then, like all these other people, like Green Day, some of that was cool, some of it was not. So you had the whole emo scene going on, and then you had a lot of generic rock music. And I just remember it was pretty bad. And they had some really good music coming out then. It just wasn't popular. Like I remember Daft Punk was coming up during those days, but they weren't popular then. And there was like all these people coming up that would become popular later, but not at the time. But then like after that whack ass genre of music, you had this re-emergence of the 80s. And then you had all these bands that were doing their own thing at first. Then they kind of embraced the whole 80s synth. What is it? New wave. Yeah, an example of that would be Tegan and Sarah, like this folk band, these twins that were like mostly did folk songs, or like pop folk, folk pop, folk pop, right? And then all of a sudden they came out with this album now was basically sounded like it was from 1985 or something. And then they blew up, like, and then they be like kind of crossed over from their niche of kind of like queer folk music into like kind of mainstream. And there was a bunch of people doing that, right? And then, you know, all of a sudden you start seeing, and that was very fascinating. And to this day, you still kind of seeing that. You know, I think the epitome or the climax of that was Stranger Things, that show. I think after Stranger Things, people are now like, okay, we're kind of done with this 1980s re-emergence stuff. But that was like, yeah, I think Stranger Things was like the epitome of like the 80s. And then they started bringing back the 90s and all this stuff. It was fascinating. But it's what you're into, and it's not necessarily restrictive to an era or era. It's not restricted to an era. It's like it could be like a scene, you know. I'm just reminded of like Dark Academia. Dark Academia is a very interesting phenomena, and that's another thing that I kind of am not on board. I'm not jumping on the train of like looking like an academic in my videos. You know, what example would be the you know, having like and there's nothing wrong with this. I think I've done it a few times, like having a bookshelf. And it's more just laziness in my background to make it appear like I read a lot. And you know, a bookshelf is a very pretty thing with a stack of books. It's quite, you know, it's quite enjoyable to look at. It's quite pleasing to the eye. I'm not denying that. I have many shelves with books, and you know, it looks nice on the eyes. But I think a lot of that, you know, you go to people who like do book videos, and you see this concentrated effort to make themselves look like book people. And I do think it gets a little I guess the word would be cringe. Gets a little cringe after a while. I'm like, okay, we know you read books. You don't have to like you know, make it that obvious. But I'm not hating on anybody. And so that's the thing. There's no hate. I'm not trying to be a hater or anything like that. But I guess I've never been on that train. And I would say the Black Ponderer, the channel, I've always, one of the reasons why I started the channel was I did want to make it so that somebody who's doesn't kind of jump on that bandwagon of like you know, looking super academic, like looking like a librarian or something, like the stereotypical librarian or the school teacher, but they, you know, maybe they also like reading. I'm like, I wanted to make that person feel comfortable too. Like, yeah, because there's a lot of people out there who read books, but they don't have a tweed jacket, you know. Or like, you know, they're not, you know, walking around with thick ass glasses. Maybe they just wear contacts, you know. And I just wanted to make, and they might not speak, highly academic or whatever. And that's just one part of the book community, specifically on YouTube, right? Is there's that highbrow academic side of YouTube, but then there's like kind of the lowbrow, which is it's too bad using these terms, but I guess that's what we're using, because you have also kind of like the whole, although I wonder if it's as big as it used to be with the young adult scene where people would read a lot of young adult novels, and like, a lot of these novels aren't really popular. I'm trying to think of like, I guess the biggest one right now is Fourth Wing. I know, because I know hella people who are into books, and so that's how I've been to know. I don't read these books, but a lot of books that are very popular for young adult readers. Yeah, that's the newest one. But I mean, that's in a long line of like those kinds of books. Hunger Games would be another example, right? I'm just thinking back. I remember there was a series called Divergent series, right? And so, but then they had a whole aesthetic to it too. Right? But I just never got on board with any of those aesthetics. I kind of was just doing my own thing. But but that's not to say I did not have an aesthetic. Like I said, I think I kind of embraced the lo-fi aesthetic, which in and of itself is a bit cringe. Like, oh God, this guy, he's like trying to pretend like it's 1987 or something. Like, you still thinking like people are using home video cassette tapes and shit. Like, yeah, that's me. Take it or leave it. That's me. Let me see if there was other things that I said in my description here. But yeah, like essentially, yeah, like it doesn't even have to be a scene. It could just be an identity, like country person, country bunkin'. I remember, so I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, right? And I moved to Memphis, and people from the San Francisco Bay, when I was about to move there, saying, "Oh my God, you moving to Memphis, Tennessee? You're gonna be surrounded by cowboys." Which, no, like there's none of that. I mean, actually, like there is a cowboy rodeo thing here, as one would imagine. Let's not deny that. And there is an aesthetic. There is a Memphis aesthetic here, which I haven't really hopped on. So there's that kind of aesthetic too. The like identity. I guess that's more of like the dark academia, as opposed to a particular time frame or era. I keep saying era. There's error, and then there's era. Make sure we don't confuse. But yeah. But then, and then at the same time, it's cool to claim an aesthetic. Do I have anything against claiming an aesthetic? No, I think it's pretty cool. I like, another example would be I have friends who are really into outer space. I went to college, and with some friends, I made some college buddies who now are like, astrophysicists, or like they like space scientists basically. You know, no, there's cosmetology. No, there's cosmologist. Cosmologist, study of the cosmos. Cosmetology. I have friends who are into cosmetology too, like who work in a beauty salon. But no, but they'll wear like NASA shirts, like that. The very which you could just go to Walmart, Target, and buy those shirts now, like with the NASA logo, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. Let me show you this. This is pretty cool. I'm into space. I just don't want to break it. I'm probably going to break it. No. It's a Lego. It's like a friend of my wife. She gave this to her, and then my wife built it. And then she let me display it on the desk. But it's like space stuff. It's like on the what is it? I guess I'm trying to look at the camera because I know there's a mirror effect going on. I guess on the left side is an eclipse situation, and on the right side is a black hole representation, and then there's some space exploration. There's comet and some radio astronomy going on, which is awesome. Yeah, this is the shit, man. So I'm all about that space aesthetic. So there's all types of aesthetics. Look at this. Hey, it's Halloween. A pumpkin is Halloween aesthetic. Right? That's an aesthetic too. You know, some people are really... You may know somebody who's their favorite holiday of all time is Halloween. And they just get all spooky. And they really get into it. They dress up like Wednesday from the Addams Family. And people are doing that really a lot now because of the new show that blew up with... What's the name of that actor? Ortega. Something Ortega. It just blew up. Right? So people are embracing... And then you had the Beetlejuice, that remake. So people are loving that. And I think the same actor who is Wednesday... See, I'm old school. I remember... I'm so old, my memory is starting to Ricci. Christina Ricci was Wednesday. I remember that Wednesday. But now it's a new Wednesday. But I also have friends who are like really into the Halloween. And so they dress up and they look all dead and they just embrace it, man. Black. And it's, you know, this is nothing wrong with aesthetic. So I guess the question is, when we look at it from a philosophical standpoint, is why do people do this? Why do people embrace aesthetics? Sometimes it is just kind of shallow situations where people are just like, hey, I just want to look a certain way because I want to belong, or I'm just trying to get views or clicks. So there's that. It is shallow sometimes, but sometimes it's really personal. And it's deep, and somebody finds a huge connection to an aesthetic, and it makes them feel like they belong, or it gives them some joy. Like a lot of my friends who are into the Halloween, they just like the dead. Look at all like they just rose from the graveyard or something. That's just how they are. And there's nothing wrong with that aesthetic. I think we need to. I think we do live in a world where we're kind of forced to conform. And one example is what I was saying with YouTube, where you do need to adopt certain things to be successful on YouTube. But then again, I mean, I can make a whole video on that, right? What does that mean, being successful on YouTube? Being successful on YouTube, essentially what that means is you are your videos are highly suitable for ads to be placed onto them, right? That's really success on YouTube, right? That's really like why videos get pushed, right? As most people know, right? But they don't want to like admit it, right? It's less about like, oh, this is content that a lot of people like. It is more just like, no, this is content that is you could easily put an ad on to, and those are pushed by the algorithm, right? And of course, like with those type of videos, what do you need? You need like, high definition quality. They need to be very straightforward, simple, not too complex. They demand a certain thing, and so you kind of have to cater to that. But some people have aesthetics that don't cater to that. Some aesthetics are not. They're not suitable for ad placements, so they don't get. The algorithm doesn't push them onto other people as many eyes, so that you don't get see the viewer counts go up. And that's something that you probably should. That I've always understood, and I never felt bad about. When it's interesting, right? Like, comment, and subscribe, right? Why would somebody subscribe to your channel? I mean, people subscribe to channels for many different reasons. Of course, a lot of people subscribe because they like what you're saying, and they like what you're talking about, and that's great. That's cool. But that's not everybody, right? Some people just subscribe because they just like the way you look, and they don't really care about what you're talking about, which is, and I think people don't want to like confront that reality, right? They don't want to, when somebody says like, wow, 100,000 people clicked on my video because they like what I had to say. Well, no, not. Some people clicked on that subscribe button, but it had nothing to do with what you said, right? And and then also like, there's many reasons why people click or watch a video that may not have to do with the content or like what you're actually saying, right? And that's kind of like a brutal reality that a lot of creators don't want to accept. Although I think a lot of creators kind of already know that, but they don't want to like say it out loud because then they'll have to face that reality. And so to that end, right, you shouldn't really, it's kind of hard to judge the quality of a channel based off of the amount of views it has, because there are a number of views a channel has often has nothing to do with the quality of the channel, right? But it depends. It might have a lot to do more with the aesthetic of a channel, which may or may not be conducive to like a lot of people watching you or not. It's like, let's say, although there are some channels. I was gonna say like a channel that just focuses on 1980s aesthetic. Is that gonna get a lot of views, a lot of subscribers? Probably not, but I think I do see some that are. But I think they're also playing that algorithm game too. I think that I've actually subscribed to one channel that has, although I haven't been to that channel for a long time. I'm curious. I know it's probably got like a ton of subscribers. But yeah, it's been a long ass time since I've checked out that one. Yeah, look, I'm gonna have to pause. Yeah, 1.3 million. I'm just looking at this channel that's got a lot of 80s stuff. Yeah, that's a lot, but it's been around for a while. But they doing good. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on and just talk briefly about aesthetic, because I think it's fun. I do think we live in a world where aesthetic is kind of king, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think we just have to acknowledge, if we're gonna talk more deeply about the philosophy of that. We just gotta acknowledge that aesthetic is subjective, and oftentimes there's no rhyme or reason why people prefer aesthetic, other than like, well, that's how somebody's wired. It's kind of like, why do you like a certain food? Like, my favorite food is this, my favorite food is that. Why? Because that's just how your brain chemistry is. You just prefer that, because you're just, as opposed to somebody else who's wired a little differently, right? And I think that's the same thing with aesthetic. And I use myself as an example. Right, I do enjoy videos that have that lo-fi aesthetic to it. Why? I don't know. It's just because I like it. I just like it, and it's just kind of fascinating because when I see videos that are extremely like sharp and like have very high definition quality, I don't really like that, which is kind of funny. So why, like, not like that? Why do I not like that? That's just because that's just not my thing. I just don't find that interesting. But it has nothing to do with like they did something wrong or like they're doing something incorrectly. It's just that's my preference, and so that's a part of it too. That's a part of it too. So part of it is like, not only are you hopping onto a scene or an identity, you are embracing an aesthetic because you like it. Like, we go back to the country girl that wears the Daisy Dukes. Maybe they just like Daisy Dukes, and they just like they just like a lot showing their legs, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Right? That's what they prefer, and that's not the only reason. Some people are like, oh, I get a lot of attention with showing their legs. There's those people, but then there's other people who are like, hey, I just like legs. I like showing my legs, and hey, Daisy Dukes are good for that. Or like they like jeans, and they're like, I just love denim. And I'm cool. It's cool that we have denim shorts. It's quite fascinating. Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to think about. I have this phone. It's a Razor. It's a Motorola Razor. I don't, I'm old. Again, I'll keep saying it. I'm old. There was a time when everybody had, or lots of people had the Motorola Razor. It was a flip phone. And they still making them to this day. The Motorola, it's a smartphone now. But you flip it. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll get this. Why? Because it just reminds me of when I had that Motorola Razor back in the day. And I could just flip it. It's too bad because you can't really flip it like back in the day. You could just kind of like use one finger. Now it's a little too stiff because it has that touch screen on it and stuff. But sometimes I'd be busted out the Razor, and people are like, "Is that a Razor?" And sometimes it's the older people who remember the old school, and then sometimes it's young ass people who are like, they ask me like, "How was the old Razor?" So it's a conversation starter. But yeah, I do like that. I also, and we can just go. I'll stop when the hour. We're about finished. But now that I see some of the things that are just timeless, I have the Aviators. This just happened to be on my. I didn't stage this. This just happened to be on my desk at the time. Had the Aviators, a timeless piece. But it definitely is an aesthetic. And, it's not just 80s. I mean, you bring this up in there's 80s nostalgia, there's 60s nostalgia, there's like World War II, World War One. I don't know what they were. But I know this was the thing for pilots. I'm guessing probably not war pilots, right? They probably wore goggles. But you get that like aviator aesthetic. I'm wearing these big ass headphones, so I can't even properly put them over my ears. Yeah, now I look cool, like Miami Vice. I don't know. I think we go to finish now. Done with our discussion. I'll clock out now. I see that the stream might have had some buffering issues because I'm seeing like. Sorry about that. I mean, that's kind of outside my control. It's too bad, but it is what it is. Maybe so you might have got some buffering issues going on, but I think when you when we end the stream and then it uploads on the recording, right? The replay. A lot of that stuff is worked out. The kinks are worked out, and they kind of skip all that, and they merge the video and make it kind of seamless. So hopefully that works. But if not, oh well. We do what we do. But I just want to thank you for hanging out with me on Saturday night. It's a Saturday night for me. I know some people actually, they told me they listened to it in the morning. So I guess Sunday morning. And that's cool. But thanks for hanging out with me. And yeah, we'll probably have another discussion next week about something. But yeah, you've been watching the Black Ponderer. Tune in next time for more philosophical thought. Bye-bye.